very interesting to note that any kind of counseling seems to be outward going rather than inward looking in the modern age. Very rarely you find a counselor who will make you look inward, which you rightly pointed out depends on how much they have understood about themselves. And this is very rare that we see. Now to change track a little bit, for individuals who are familiar with Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, and as well as who are familiar with Sri J. Krishnamurti's teachings, how do the teachings of Amanaska Yoga compare and contrast? Amanaska Yoga, that yoga, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra or J. Krishnamurti's teachings, how do they compare and contrast with Amanaska Yoga?
I must say one thing in the beginning, that the school from which I came is the school of Krishnamurti. So Krishnamurti's way of looking at life, where self-knowing is of paramount importance. So I belong to that school, if we may call that a school. And so I did not come this far on the road of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And when I went all the way trying to understand what Krishnamurti is saying and applying it to my life, what I found is that while Krishnamurti is immensely profound and there's nothing in the 10,000 years of tradition which overlaps with what Krishnamurti has brought into the world, brought into manifestation, the whole field of self-knowing, I found that there are also areas in Krishnamurti's lifetime work of 70 years, areas which are grey, areas on which the tradition, the Hindu tradition, is much more eloquent than Krishnamurti himself. And therefore, in order to, in my search for completeness of Krishnamurti, as a person who has learnt under the guidance of this master, not through direct physical association, but by immersing myself in his works and in his teachings, I'm looking for the completeness, how to make it a perfect jewel. Then I found that I had to migrate to the Hindu tradition in order to make the work perfect. And then it hangs together as a total worldview, which is complete and integral in itself, needing nothing from the outside, provided we integrate some of the traditional sutras from the Hindu religion to Krishnamurti's framework. In that sense, I would say, notwithstanding the enormous profundity of Krishnamurti's lifetime work, that it has to take the help of traditional Hindu Jnana Yoga. And then coming to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, I did not walk on that road, as I said. So I'm not really the right person to make a comparative study of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras on the one hand and Krishnamurti on the other hand. But I'm very interested in placing them side by side and seeing where they run into common ground and where they are divergent. I'm interested in this because both are moksha shastras. Krishnamurti's lifetime work is a moksha shastra, and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is the most haloed moksha shastra in the Hindu world. There's nothing which surpasses that. So therefore, we should always keep Patanjali's Yoga Sutras as a yardstick. Now, Krishnamurti throws a lot of light on the nature of the self and brought that self into focus. And Patanjali also throws a lot of light on the self, but there are aspects of the self in which Krishnamurti goes much deeper, whereas Patanjali says that the essential hallmarks of the self are in the likes and dislikes, and in the craving, abhiniveshaha, and in the asmita, in the feeling that you are a separate entity. That's called asmita. in the feeling that you are a separate entity. But the full mischief, the dynamical mischief of the self, which Krishnamurti has put on a motion picture screen, as it were, for all to see, that Vista vision is not available in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It's a much more panoramic and grand view of the self in all its machinations. And that Krishnamurti has given to the world. And therefore, if we start with that and start studying the self, our own self, not a theoretical self, then I maintain that that takes you directly to self-realization. That's my thing. And that I call Amanaska Yoga. And Amanaska means annihilation of the mind. And annihilation of the mind means annihilation of the self becoming calm and silent. So the whole of Amanaska Yoga is a movement in meditation towards the finale, the final position of the calming and silencing of the self after you have understood the self. You got to go through it milestone after milestone, slowly, not in a hurry, applying the whole thing to your life. Not to a case study on the table, no. To your life, to yourself. And that is where Krishnamurti stands, and that's where the Yoga Sutras stand, and that's where Amanaska Yoga, which is what I am talking about, and its sources are Krishnamurti, its sources are the Hindu Jnana Yoga and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and modern masters, other masters like Nisargadatta Maharaj and Ramana Maharshi. But predominantly, the soul of Amanaska Yoga is Krishnamurti's lifetime work. And Yoga Sutras stand as an independent, profound, grand light lasting for thousands of years. And we need to study that.